Welcome to a rare Thursday night edition of News of the Week. Now, originally I was going to do the News of the Week episode right after when I did that long review looking at the 12 games that happened yesterday, but since that video I know it's going to take a long time to upload, and since if I would have done the News of the Week episode then, I probably wouldn't have uploaded that video straight away because, I can't upload both the News of the Week and that long review that I did for yesterday 12 game action at the same time. Well, actually I could do that, but it's gonna make the internet go even slower, and that both of those videos is gonna take even longer to basically upload. That's why I waited until when I saw that the review that I did earlier today is finished upload, and then I basically did start to recording of the News of the Week episode. But anyhow, in terms of this week, we didn't really had as much news this week because, we had two match week between the weekend's action and in the midweek action. And anytime when that, of course, happened, usually there isn't as much news that happened around the MLS world. And really, most of the news around the MLS world is talking about those match week that happened on Saturday and also the midweek games. But the first news we're going to talk about is a news that I think a lot of people have heard about, which is MLS have officially announced that they will launch their new development league in 2022, and indeed it is going to be in the third tier of US soccer, and this is kind of what we expected as we heard the rumor that MLS is indeed going to go they're going to launch this new development league starting into next season. And for those of you wondering why exactly MLS is doing this, well, the reason why they're doing this is that they kind of want to copy what baseball is doing, where a lot of these MLB teams basically have a farm league, and they have all these farm teams that basically produce a lot of these players that might not be good enough in terms of making it into the roster, or players that they of course drafted and they immediately put them into the minor league before, if they are good enough in the minor league, they can of course get called up into the big leagues and call into their team. Well, this is kind of the same thing in MLS, although this is kind of more like MLS potentially is getting a lot of these young talented players that are homegrown player, and also players that might not be good enough in terms of making into a roster in MLS, and basically put them in development league. And if those players does well in this development league, they can of course potentially promote it into the top tier team. And this will kind of also help for some teams in MLS where, not every single team has an affiliate team in the lower league. And I know for some of these teams that don't have them, this new league will definitely help solve their issue where, they have all these players in their disposal, but some of them they can't even play them because they're probably not good enough to make it into the first team. But we also cannot send them down into an affiliate team in the USL Championship or even in League One because we don't actually have a team there. Well, now with this new league, that should not be a problem anymore. Every single MLS team is going to have kind of like a reserve team that plays in this development league, and all these teams can, and again, send all these players that might not be good enough in terms of making into the 18 in each of the match week, or it's going to be players that they might of course sign on a homegrown contract, and they're basically going to send them right to the development league, start to get them some game time so they can be ready if they're going to be called up by an MLS team, or maybe even if those players in the development league that those make the jump to Europe, at least they're going to have some playing time instead of just kind of sitting on the bench and kind of wasting their first couple year of development. Now, another thing that I've also heard is that MLS is also maybe thinking about including teams that might not actually be controlled by their respective MLS team, and these are kind of like third party team that kind of join this new development league. And I'm not quite sure exactly if that is going to be the case, or if there's going to be some team that's going to do that. But MLS have also said that this new league isn't just going to be teams that are kind of like the farm system to their MLS team. We're going to also have some teams that might not be affiliated with an MLS team, but they also would be joining this new development league. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is that Ted Siegel has become the majority owner of the Houston Dynamo. So, the Dynamo, of course, a couple of days ago announced that they have a new majority owner, and this is definitely great news if you're a Dynamo fan, because for years, Dynamo fans have always complained about their owner being one of, if not the cheapest owner in MLS. And from what Ted Siegel has said, he's already said that he definitely promised that he's going to spend more money and be a little bit more ambitious in terms of bringing some of the best talent to the Houston Dynamo and making them once again a force in MLS. Now, he's already kind of put those words into action, because he's already signed Tim Parker, who was one of their most important player in that defense, to a long-term contract. And he also said that they are planning to potentially bring a Zimbabwe defender from the Turkish Super League and basically bring them to the Houston Dynamo and even get him on a DP contract. Now, one thing that when I did hear about that, I was kind of concerned the fact that, you know, they were going to make that move and they're going to make him a DP contract, because, you know, whenever you sign a defender or a goalkeeper as a DP, that usually is like a cardinal sin that you should not be able to do. But from what I also heard is that player that they signed him, that they potentially could sign him to a DP contract, it's just going to be a lower tier DP contract, where in the future they can always buy him down to just a TAM contract. And in some way, that's kind of smart with what Ted Siegel is doing, where, you know, you're going to find a player that is a very high quality defender that can solidify that back line. And even though you are going to potentially make him a DP player, you can make him like a lower DP player where eventually you can buy him down on a TAM contract, and it can basically open up another spot for another designated player that could be more of an attacking player to this team. And it also kind of just sensed that it seemed like he wants to focus on that defense and kind of want to make that defensive fight well before they actually decide to really spend and really bring out the cash to really get some attacking power to this Dynamo team. So yeah, we'll sort of see if that, of course, is going to be the case. But obviously, this is definitely great news for the Dynamo, and even better news in terms of this rebuild that they are going through right now. Now, speaking of good news for a specific MLS team, for the Chicago Fire, well, I know Fire fans have been very depressed in terms of what has gone on this season, being now officially dead last in MLS. At least they are going to have a consolation prize, knowing the fact that the new crest that they are going to be using after this season has officially been unveiled. And I'll tell you what, you know, the new logo that the Fire are going to use, it's actually not a bad logo. I mean, I know it's still not as good as the old one that they used before they gone with the hideous one that they currently using right now, but at least the new one that they use does symbolize Chicago a lot. And also, I know it is a circle logo, and cue the jokes about how people say, "Sir, there's just too many circle logo in MLS right now." And, you know, for me, I would rather have teams do a circle logo, but they make it very pretty, rather than just these kind of rebrand where we've seen where teams decide to go with a rebrand and decide not to go with a circle logo, and it just looked absolutely hideous. So yeah, I don't mind the fact that they are still going with the generic tradition circle logo, that they're going to go with their new logo, but it's just that what is important is that it's much better than the one that they currently has, and it is. I mean, when you look at it, it's at least 10 times better in terms of the ones that they currently have right now, and it really symbolizes what the Chicago Fire is, and also represent what the city is, because part of that logo does have the inspiration of the flag of Chicago. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and now talk about some transfer rumors. Well, one transfer that officially was announced today is that Kaden Clark will officially move to RB Leipzig after the 2021 season. Now, I was kind of surprised that today was the day they finally announced that he is going to be moving to RB Leipzig after the end of this season, because I thought a couple of months ago they announced this and they made it official, but I guess that actually was not the case, and today they, of course, are going to announce that he is going to be going to RB Leipzig. And, you know, Kaden Clark, he is no doubt one of the most promising young player in MLS right now, and a lot of people have said that he could definitely be a future U.S. men's national team, and that him now going to make the jump to Europe and also joining one of the best team in Germany, and also joining another former Red Bulls player in Tyler Adams playing in that team, and also joining former Red Bulls head coach Jesse Marsch being the manager of RB Leipzig right now. I think Kaden Clark is going to do well with that team, and I won't be surprised he might even get some minutes in that team after this season. I mean, I know some people will say that he's probably not going to get a lot of minutes or even starting minutes with RB Leipzig, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, especially with Jesse Marsch, knowing the fact that he definitely wants to play his young American player in there, and especially doing his time with RB Salzburg. I know he definitely played Brendan Aronson a lot during the time when Aronson was at RB Salzburg. I won't be surprised he's going to do the same, giving some chances of these young American player and play them in one of the best team in Germany, and also one of the best team in Europe right now. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is that FC Cincinnati will not pick up the purchase option for Jurgen Laca. Well, actually, I kind of mentioned this before in the preview and also in the review, where it is pretty much announced that Cincinnati will not pick up the purchase option for Jurgen Laca. So basically, Laca, his loan is going to be ending, I think, at the end of June. But what's kind of interesting is Cincinnati is still playing Jurgen Laca. Like, I mean, if you're Jurgen Laca, I guess maybe the reason why in these last couple of games, and especially in the last game where he of course had another horror miss, I bet he's doing that on purpose, because he knows that, yeah, I'm not going to even be part of your team anymore, so why do I even want to put away this goal to kind of help your team out. Now, at the same time, you know, that also is kind of, there's another way you can look at it, is that, you know, Jurgen Laca missed that big chance, and if the team that he's going to be bought back, which is Brighton probably would not decide to play him after the form that Jurgen Laca is with FC Cincinnati, and, you know, even though he is spending his last couple of days with this team, he at least want to have a good kind of ending where when he does get back to England and get back to Brighton, at least he has a chance to start for the team. But it just doesn't seem like that is going to be the case, and you can clearly see that, you know, Laca, he says before that he really wants to stay with Cincinnati, but again, when you look at some of the form that he's been in, and really doing his time with Cincinnati, it has been a disastrous time. And I even said during the review where, you know, it just feels like whoever it is going to be the number 9 for Cincinnati in the future, which right now it's currently Brenier, but it just feels like there is a curse right now with that number 9 spot for FC Cincinnati, where it doesn't matter whoever plays that spot. You could even have one of the most talented player that plays in that spot, and they would somehow not able to put the ball into the back of the net. And it seems like we're now Jurgen Laca potentially, or Jurgen Laca now going to be soon no longer with FC Cincinnati. That striker curse is now passed on to Brenier. Now, moving on in terms of the next news, and speaking of striker, the Houston Dynamo is actually near a transfer for Christian Ramirez to Aberdeen. Now, this is kind of surprising because, you know, I thought with Christian Ramirez, knowing the fact that he's definitely not getting game time with the Dynamos, I thought he was maybe going to move somewhere within MLS and maybe get a change of scenery, or even maybe move back to Minnesota. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Loons would have no problem in terms of getting Christian Ramirez, and especially the fact that the fans would really welcome the fact that if Superman does come back to the Loons. But it seems like that's not going to be the case, and instead of potentially moving to another MLS team, he's actually going to be going to Europe. And, you know, keep in mind, he's now 30 years old right now, and it's not very often you see that kind of age of American still able to have the time to make the jump to Europe. And, you know, Aberdeen, it is not a big club, but it is one of the club that is notable in the Scottish Premiership. And, you know, I guess maybe Christian Ramirez feel like he still does have that aspiration of making the jump to Europe and play in Europe someday. So that's why he decided to maybe do so. But again, if he does go to Aberdeen, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if he's going to get some game time, because if you can't get minutes with one of the team that isn't doing well in MLS and during the time that he's been with the Dynamo, then it's going to be very hard to try to get minutes in Europe, and especially to one of the more well-known team in the Scottish Premiership, that is Aberdeen. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, is that LAFC coach Bob Bradley has given an update on the future of Bryan Rodriguez. So, I know a lot of people forgot about this, but Bryan Rodriguez is actually still an LAFC player. I mean, I know he's not with LAFC right now, but he's currently on loan in the Spanish Segunda Division, I believe with UD Amara. Now, I haven't heard exactly how well he's been doing there, but I'm guessing, from what I heard from Bob Bradley, he says that they are thinking about bringing back Bryan Rodriguez, or if there is some offer that other European club could potentially give them for Bryan Rodriguez, they would definitely consider the option. And this is going to be interesting because Bryan Rodriguez, I think doing his time with LAFC, I know he kind of didn't really live up to the expectation of the hype that he is going to be a good DP player to this team. But at least from what I've seen him in, at least in the second half of the season, he actually did very well to this team. And he actually, he might not be a guy that score a lot of goals, but he definitely is a guy that can be that playmaker and can really set up his teammate to really have a chance to score a goal. And knowing the fact that this LAFC team has really struggled in terms of the attack, and you just wonder, maybe guys like Vela and Rossi need kind of like a Bryan Rodriguez, where Rodriguez can give them the ball, set them up in good position where they can finish those chances. So maybe they might think about bringing back Bryan Rodriguez at LAFC. But as I said, Bob Bradley did say that if there is offer from other European team, then we are definitely going to listen, and we can potentially sell him off and make a profit out of this. Now, Inter Miami head coach Phil Neville says that he actually have no intention in terms of selling Rodolfo Pizarro. So, Rodolfo Pizarro, it seems like there's been some interesting situation where he is not actually playing for Inter Miami on a regular basis, and there's even some speculation that it seems like he is currently in the doghouse of Phil Neville, with the way that he hasn't been playing as much game as he should be playing. But now it seems Phil Neville says that he actually has no intention to sell him. So that kind of conflict of what we thought, that maybe Pizarro was indeed in Neville's doghouse, because if Neville just said that, well, we're not going to sell him, then it's pretty clear that there's just no way that is the case. And if that's not the case, then I'm wondering what is going on with the Rodolfo Pizarro situation. I mean, I know Pizarro, he hasn't been good with Inter Miami, but I think a lot of that has to do with he's just playing out of position every time he's with Inter Miami. Like, they keep playing him as a number 10, even though he's clearly not a number 10. Like, during his day with Rayados, he's more comfortable playing in a number 6 or number 8 spot. But the fact that Inter Miami just bought him and think that he was kind of the playmaker that they were going to get, that's just not the player that he is for. So in some way, I think Pizarro, even though he's been having a rough time with Miami, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's keep playing out of the position. And I just thought maybe he was going to be sold off to another team, or even go back to Liga MX. I also listened to the Extra Time Radio podcast a week ago, and I think, was it Andrew Wiebe or David Goss says that potentially Pizarro could be going to the San Jose Earthquakes. And honestly, I kind of laughed my ass off, because there's no way the Quakes are going to sign Pizarro. I mean, I know Pizarro, he is a Chivas player, and it seems like Almeida tends to love to bring Chivas player, or at least players that he used to play for, to come to the San Jose Earthquakes. But there are a couple of problems why Pizarro is probably not going to go to the Quakes. One, the Quakes can't afford him. Like, the Quakes are, as I said, they are one of the cheapest team in the league. There is no way in the world they're going to potentially get Pizarro, and the fact that they're probably going to pay a hefty amount of fee, which there's no way that the Quakes are going to do. And then the second reason is that Pizarro just does not fit fit the Quakes. Like, if the Quakes are going to do what Inter Miami is doing, which is pretty much put him as a number 10 position, then that is a terrible idea, because like I said, he's not a number 10. Like, Inter Miami's got to stop playing him as a number 10. They got to put him in a more natural position, and that's when he is going to excel on it. And again, if the Quakes are going to do the same thing again, then I just feel like it's just a complete waste of money. So yeah, there's no way that I think Pizarro is going to go to the Quakes. I'll be shocked if that is going to happen, and if it does happen, it's a huge mistake that the Quakes are making. But now moving on, in terms of the next news, is that Mexico that has been announced that they will indeed now play their first 2 games behind closed door because of the you-know-what chat that happened. And, you know, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole talk about is this a good idea or not, because anytime if I take sides of something that is very political and certainly very sensitive to some people, because I know it's a very mixed opinion about this situation. Some people said that it's right, the fact that you know, this homophobic chant should clearly been blocked out, and that FIFA's got to have to do something about it, which eventually they did. Like, they now hand them a 2 games ban with no fans in the stands. That's something that a lot of people have been kind of pushing for. But there's also some people that have said that, you know, this chant isn't really supposed to mean to be homophobic and stuff like that. But either way, you know, Mexico, they will be playing their first 2 games behind closed door. Now, still, this is not really good news to the U.S. men's national team, because, you know, the first 2 games that Mexico is going to be playing at home is going to be Jamaica and Canada. But at the same time, it's good news for Jamaica and Canada, and especially for Canada. And if anyone is watching this from our friendly neighbor in the north, then this is definitely great news, knowing the fact that if you get to play against Mexico, and you especially get to play against Mexico down at the Azteca and there's no fans in the stand, oh, you definitely would take that, and that definitely will be a huge disadvantage for Mexico, because, you know, we know down at the Azteca, when Mexico play their World Cup qualifier, their fans are very passionate, and it makes a huge difference between Mexico playing with fans at the Azteca in a World Cup qualifier game than Mexico playing at the Azteca with no fans at all. So yeah, but moving on, in terms of the last news, is that Matt Turner has won the Player of the Week, and also Carlos Gil also won the Player of the Week in terms of the midweek action. So back-to-back weeks that we saw 2 New England player winning the Player of the Week award. And in terms of the power rankings, at least this is actually a power rankings before the midweek action. So whatever midweek action, of course, happened, this actually does not count toward the power rankings that was released on Tuesday. But in terms of the power rankings for this week, the top 3 remains the same, with Seattle, New England, and Philly being in the top 3. But then you got the Columbus Crew, who actually was one of the biggest, if not the biggest mover in the power rankings this week, moving up 7 spots to 4th place, before we have Orlando City moving up 2 spots to 5th place. Then you got NYCFC going down 2 spots, followed by Sporting KC going down 2 spots. Then you got the Portland Timbers moving up 1 spot, followed by the Rapids moving down 1 spot, and the Galaxy moving down 4 spots from last week. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the news of the week. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these news? And as always, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.